Howdy, it's Jim Morado, and this is May 2022, and we're about 20 miles away from Springfield, Illinois. This is New Salem. We're at the New Salem Visitor Center, which is kind of a little state park in Illinois, and it's where Abraham Lincoln lived his first 6 years in Illinois. He lived in this little village here, and I'll put up a separate video of that. But this is the little museum at New Salem, and it's a very nice museum actually. It's small, but it packs a wallop. It's got some really cool items, as you'll see as we walk around, and it tells the story of New Salem and Abraham Lincoln at New Salem. It's been said that the town of New Salem basically lived and died as Lincoln lived there. The town was sort of established. He moved to it shortly afterwards. 6 years later, he moved to Springfield, as a lot of his friends were moving that away too. And then the city, or the little town, just basically disappeared. And it fell into disrepair. It basically was lost for a bit. And I believe in the between 1910, 1920, 1930, people started getting interested in it again and trying to restore the village, and eventually it was restored into there's other places like it. I know here in Kentucky we've got Fort Herod, Fort Boonesboro, a little pioneer village kind of place. We've been here twice, and both times we've been here we haven't seen the reenactors out. But it's still a neat little village to kind of walk through and to read the signs, and you get a lot of information about Abraham Lincoln and those very influential years that he spent here. And just a tiny bit of information about it from the brochure they gave me here at the museum is Lincoln's New Salem preserves the site of New Salem Village, where young Abraham Lincoln lived for 6 formative years from 1831 to 1837. Platted in 1829, the town existed for about 12 years before being abandoned and left to pasture. The centerpiece of Lincoln's New Salem is the imaginative recreation of the log village. Built in the 1930s and 40s as a civilian conservation corps program, the village features 23 historically furnished buildings, including several homes, stores, and tradesmen's shops, as well as a tavern, school, wool carding mill, and a saw and grist mill. And there's a nice little map that they've included with that to kind of help you get around the village. When I was here the first time, which was a few years ago, they actually had free issues of an Illinois State Historic Journal. I picked up an issue, and it was really good. It had the first part of an article about how the village was built. I really enjoyed the article, and I ended up having to it's kind of hard to get back issues of their journal, and I had to make a couple phone calls and send a check and all that to get the follow-up issue with the follow-up article. I wanted to read it so bad. And that was right at the beginning of COVID. So the lady I called was actually not even in her office and wasn't planning on coming in for a while. So it took a couple of months to get that, but the good people at that journal made sure I had my issue, which I thought was pretty cool. And when I think of New Salem, I always think of Anne Rutledge, who had some sort of a relationship with Abraham Lincoln before he met his future wife. And the degree of that relationship is somewhat of a mystery. Lincoln's former law partner, William Herndon, did not like Mary Todd Lincoln, and he was sort of the source for a lot of the information about that relationship. And oddly, they really don't talk a whole lot about Anne Rutledge while you're in New Salem. I don't know what the story is on that, but she is buried a couple miles away from here. And if you ask them, I don't think it's a secret or anything. They gave me directions the first time we were in this neck of the woods of how to get to her how to get to where she's buried. But she's just right up the road near Petersburg, which is another neat little town. And I love New Salem and I love Petersburg. They're both just fun, interesting, overlooked little towns. And I'll put up other videos about both here in the near future. But we're already planning a trip to get back to this area soon. And also, I won't point them out because I'm going to keep this kind of short. But as you're looking through the museum, there are some cool Lincoln-related relics. And, of course, this is close to Springfield, like I said. Close to the Lincoln's only home he ever owned. The home he had in Springfield before he became president. And Springfield is just peppered with Lincoln-related sites throughout the town. And I'll go into those on another video. But yeah, I just wanted to talk a little bit about Lincoln and New Salem. I did pick up a couple of books while I was in the area, and I've mentioned these on other videos too, but I picked up Young Lincoln by Jan Jacoby. And Jan Jacoby was actually at the Visitor Center at the Abraham Lincoln home, and he was signing copies and selling copies of his book, and it's won a Nautilus Book Award. And it's just a really well done book. I think he wrote this for kind of young teens, but it's a much smarter book than that, and it's basically written from Lincoln's perspective as he's growing up and going from Kentucky to Indiana to New Salem. And I think he's going to make this a trilogy. I think the second book is already out. I need to get a copy of that. But this book is really, really well done. I mean, I really think he did a good job of just visualizing Lincoln and getting into Lincoln's head. So I wanted to mention that book. And then another book that I picked up at is The Crazy Daisy, a little gift shop in Petersburg. It's by Raymond H. Montgomery, who I believe has passed away. But he wrote a book called Living in the Shadows of Greatness. And it's a self-guided Lincoln site tour of New Salem, Petersburg, and Sandridge. And you can read this straight through. I actually did that. And then it kind of tells you about the little towns. And it gets into some details that, if you're just looking for Lincoln stuff, you might not be totally fascinated with everything that it gets into. But it's still fascinating. Oh, yeah, it gets into some circus stuff. And other not Lincoln-related topics in that area. But it mostly sticks to the Lincoln stuff, and it gives you kind of a tour of those areas, and it gets into some more detail about Lincoln and Lincoln in this area. And being that it's Mr. Montgomery lived in the area and grew up in the area, and he had family and friends, and he knew people that knew Lincoln. And there's a couple of people that he has some first-hand accounts from that confirm that there was indeed a relationship between Abraham Lincoln and Anne Rutledge. I know some scholars debate whether that actually happened or not, but here's kind of a folksy book from a local, and it just got some. It's a fun read. I enjoyed it a lot, and I look forward to going back to New Salem and Petersburg and kind of exploring a little more deeply into Lincoln's time there. Yeah, this area is just kind of a almost, I don't want to say off the grid or forgotten, but it's definitely overlooked. If you're interested in Lincoln, this is kind of one of the last places you visit. I mean, I live here in Kentucky. I've been to Hodgenville many times. I've been to the Mary Todd Lincoln House. Other sites associated with his family. I've been to Indiana. And then, we finally made it to Springfield 10 years ago. But we didn't make it to New Salem until a couple years ago, a few years ago anyway. It was our third visit to Springfield before we finally made it over to New Salem, and I think that's totally wrong. I wish we'd gotten here earlier. And speaking of the Raymond Montgomery book, Living in the Shadows of Greatness, that's the title. If you look it up on Amazon and some of those websites, the price has been jacked up. It's kind of an obscure book that's hard to find, but I think it's a smaller book, and I think I paid $18 for it at the Crazy Daisy, which is a little pricey, but it's totally worth it. And the Crazy Daisy had a lot of other cool Lincoln stuff. Also, since right now New Salem does not have a gift shop, they don't have any sort of a vendor selling stuff for them there on the property. And somebody kind of told me that's a state of Illinois issue. But they, if you want to go there and buy some postcards and some gifts, you can't do it. And the Crazy Daisy actually was stocked, I think, with some of the merchandise that they used to sell, but that they don't sell now. So, yeah, if you're in this area, go to the Crazy Daisy. The lady running that place, she was a wealth of information, too. I did not catch her name, but she was wonderful. And, yeah, Petersburg and New Salem, to me, definitely warrant more than just a few hours away from your Springfield trip. I want to get back here for a few more days. Also, and then I'll shut up about it, but Living in the Shadows of Greatness, the Montgomery book, it has about the sweetest cover I've ever seen. It's kind of a hand-drawn sketch slash, I think, photo. It's a black and white picture, and it's Abraham Lincoln. It's obviously Abraham Lincoln reading a book and holding the hand of a lady, and it's a young Lincoln. I can't tell if maybe this is a model that looks like Lincoln from an old photo, and then they've drawn in, of course there's no photos that exist of Anne Rutledge, but they've drawn in, he's holding a young lady's hand, and then there's kind of almost a sketchy drawing of a little town behind them. It's just a really sweet picture. I wanted to mention that. Anyway, yeah, that's I wanted to talk a little bit about New Salem and their visitor center. I'm going to put up another video of my walk through the little town of New Salem, and I'll give a bit more information on that video. Thanks.